Is it okay if I film something?
No.
No, you want me to stop?
Don't.
Don't stop?
Don't do it.
Okay.
Don't film.
I've talked about it a lot, so I'm sure it's no surprise that I love video games. I've been playing games my whole life, and I'm still pretty active when it comes to gaming. So I thought it would be a lot of fun to go down memory lane with my personal history of gaming. For as long as I can remember, my family had a Super Nintendo. I was a toddler or something, and I'd get into the box with the cords and with the console itself and the games, and this irritated my brother, so he wrote "No Ben" on that box. The first thing I remember ever playing was Super Mario World. But we played so many other games on there too. Donkey Kong Country, Yoshi's Island, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. It was just a really fun system. To this day, when my family gets together, we break out the Super Nintendo and we play Tetris Attack together. My brother and my uncle are pretty much the best at that game, so whatever. It's still a lot of fun though. When my brother and I would play games together, we'd often pick one-player games and take turns. But he would pick a game where he wouldn't lose, just so he wouldn't have to give up his controller, because my brother's a jerk. I also remember pretty much always having a Game Boy. We would play Tetris, or Kirby Pinball, or Super Mario Land, or whatever. But everything changed when Pokemon came out. My brother saved up his money, and he got a copy of the red version, I think. And then later on, my parents got blue version for me, and so we would play together. And like, I love Pokemon still, but it's not just about playing through the story mode and catching all the little monsters. It was about trading with friends and battling your friends and figuring out who is the best Pokemon trainer. So my childhood best friend had a PlayStation, and so I'd sometimes go over to his house and we'd play games, usually Crash Team Racing. I remember one time when I was at his house and it was a particularly close race and we were really competitive and we're sitting there talking trash to each other. Behind us on the couch was his mom, who was taking a nap. And at the end of the race, we both crossed the finish line at just about the same time, but he crossed just barely in front of me, and out of victory, he screams, "Eat my butt!" And this woke his mom up, and she started like grilling him about like, where'd you learn to talk like that? And he got in a bunch of trouble just because of trash talking with Crash Team Racing. When I was in the 4th grade, my family and I went to Louisiana for my cousin's wedding. And while we were there, we were visiting with one of my aunts, and she decided to give her Nintendo 64 to me and my brother. It came with Super Mario 64, Star Fox 64, The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, Banjo-Tooie, and a bunch of other stuff. We loved that thing, and we just kept getting games for it. We later got The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask, Donkey Kong Country 64, 007 GoldenEye, Mario Party, and basically anything that was Pokemon, I had. Years later, my brother bought a GameCube, and he'd sometimes let me play it with him, but I remember my friend let me borrow a copy of WWE Day of Reckoning. My brother and I would play that together. I love wrestling, and I love wrestling games. My brother, though, would just see how ridiculous of a character he could make. Day of Reckoning specifically had a really, like, crazy custom feature, and so he would, like, bring the chin out really far and give the character horns and wings and make their skin blue. It was absurd, but we had so much fun doing it. My brother also got a copy of Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles, and I guess he didn't enjoy the game a whole lot, but I loved it. I would play it often. I was pretty good at it. I'm pretty sure that I was nearing towards the end of the game, and my brother didn't like it enough that he sold it. He got rid of it, and my brother's a jerk. Eventually, I got my own GameCube. Mostly I played wrestling games and Pokemon games. Soul Calibur 2 was another one I really enjoyed. I didn't have it for too long until it stopped reading discs. I spent a lot more time playing Nintendo 64 and going to my friends' houses to play their Xboxes. When I was 17, I got a job at McDonald's at the mall, so I had some money. And I kept seeing ads for the coolest game that I had ever seen, and I had never played anything like it. So I went to the store and I bought a PS2 so I could play Guitar Hero 3. Yeah, I got a PlayStation 2 just for the purpose of Guitar Hero. But from there, I got to experience so many other cool games, like Kingdom Hearts, and Jak and Daxter, Ratchet and Clank, and The Prince of Persia: Sands of Time. This was my first non-Nintendo console, and so initially, I felt kind of like a traitor. But I loved that thing, and I played it with my friends, and I played it with my family, especially Guitar Hero. Later, my brother got a PS3. He'd let me play it sometimes. He would recommend a game that he played, and he would just sit on his couch and watch me play his game, and we'd bond over that. It was kind of like from when we were kids again, except I didn't have to pass the controller because he already played the gosh darn game. Playing Infamous 2 while hanging out with my brother is still a cherished memory. It's not like we did much. We just had snacks, drank soda pops, and talked while we played this incredible game. At this point, I'm 18 or 19, and I've been playing games for my whole life. But a big turning point came when I played Batman Arkham Asylum. This was legitimately the first game that I ever played all by myself, 100%. No help from my brother, no looking at guides, no tips from friends. It was just me and Batman beating up bad guys and saving the day. Then I stopped playing video games. I was in a relationship with a girl who thought the video games were only destructive. I'd sometimes get away with playing some Tetris or Mario or something casual that could be considered harmless. I would also sometimes play my PS2 in secret. Until she caught me, she took it and she sold it. And I never saw that PS2 or the money. But when we broke up, I went hard back into games. I bought a PS2, and I bought a Wii, and I bought basically every game available. I would just go to the game shop, and I would just pick out whatever I could afford. So I played a lot of really good games, but I also played a lot of really not good games. But now I'm back into games, I'm having conversations with my friends about the stuff I love to play and the stuff I used to play. And they're telling me about the games that they play and the games that they used to play. And we're forming a friendship and a bond just over pixels. One of my friends recommended I play Spider-Man Web of Shadows. He had it on his Xbox 360 and he said it was incredible. At this point I only had a Wii and I had a PS2, so I checked on Amazon and I discovered that it's on PS2, so I order it. When it arrives, I'm quick to pop it in and I start playing it and I'm confused. He was telling me about how great the graphics were and the combat was fantastic and a great story and all these things, and I was so excited to try it out. But when I pop it into my PS2, I'm playing a side-scrolling beat-em-up. I was so confused. I was so frustrated. So I contact him and I'm like, hey man, why is this a side-scroller? And he's like, it's not. It shouldn't be. It's a 3D Spider-Man adventure. Well, it turns out that the PS2 version of that game is a side-scroller, and it's different from the one on Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. Whoops! A few years later, I got my own PS3, and I love the heck out of that thing. I played it a lot. Played it by myself, and I played it with friends. I used to play with my roommates quite a bit. It's a great system. One time I remember I was watching a movie with a friend in my room, and we hear one of my roommates screaming from his room. I don't know what's going on. He sounds really angry. I leave my room, I go to his to check on him. Turns out he was playing Minecraft and getting worked up about Minecraft. I've never played Minecraft before, but I never would have expected that it would have gotten that kind of reaction out of somebody. But look at how games affect people. It's so fun. Playing video games is incredibly important to me. It's a great way for me to temporarily ignore the troubles of the world and to get away from my personal stresses and anxieties. It's also the perfect social tool. I live on the other side of the country from my family, and so my brother and I will play games together as an opportunity for us to talk and catch up and to bond some more. Mom, I'd talk to you a lot more if you would shoot bad guys with me. A really good friend and I bonded over Metal Gear Solid. Like, that's what got us close. I play games with my wife, and I play games with my son, and those moments of us playing together are some of the most fun I've had as a father. Like, we're just sitting together and goofing around while we're also playing video games. I just have to get past the part where I get frustrated with him for not understanding how the game works because he's a child. But I'm getting there.
When I first started making this video, I wanted it to be about the games I played growing up and the games I continue to play and enjoy now. But in that form, it lacked direction. So I looked over my script again and I talked to some friends about how to improve it, and I realized that it was all already there. This video is not just about my personal history of playing games in itself, but my personal history of playing games and the friends and family that were there to enjoy those times too. So I shared some of my favorite stories of times I played games with friends and with my family, especially my brother. So I decided to ask my friends and family to share some of their stories.
While I was in high school, my dad was visiting my uncle, his brother, in North Carolina. And he was states away, and he got very sick on the trip. On the trip, he was hospitalized, and it was just very hard to see because we didn't know if he was going to come home. He was unconscious. He was on a breathing system, like it was breathing for him, and we just didn't know. We drove that night when I found out that this might be the last chance I get to see my dad alive. And so we drove to go see him. It was me, my brother, my sister, my grandparents. We all drove down there. My mom had already flown out, and she was staying there, and we all saw him for a short while. A week or so after, my brother, sister, and I all had to go back home. And we get back, and it was very hard. It was a very rough time. We had to go back to school like everything was normal. And one day during my stagecraft class, we were moving risers for a choir show, and I dropped one on my toe, and it cracked my toenail. Thankfully, no bone was broken, but I had to go to the doctor to get it checked out. And my brother came and picked me up and drove me to the doctor, and I went home for the rest of the day. And on the way back, my brother decided that we should stop at a Redbox and get Call of Duty Black Ops 2, which had just come out. And for that short period of time, being able to forget about everything going on around me and just play video games with my brother is one of the most meaningful moments that I've ever had when it comes to gaming.
When I was in elementary school, 3rd or 4th grade, I think, and my cousin got Star Wars Battlefront. I had never really played a shooter type game before, from what I can remember. So I remember like playing that game with him. I'd go over to his house for like Christmas and 4th of July, different holidays throughout the year, and playing that game with him, us two like mowing down an entire army and just like feeling unstoppable when you're playing as a stormtrooper or a clone trooper, always felt really cool to me. And it's even now a memory that I look back on fondly. On the flip side of that, I got Dynasty Warriors 4 when I was in like 3rd grade. And in that same thing, every time he'd come over to my house, we played Dynasty Warriors 4. Sometimes he'd just look at me and be like, Dynasty Warriors? I'd be like, hell yeah. And we'd go and like, as cheesy as it sounds, like fighting through an entire army and feel like a total badass. Those are memories that I'll always have and I'll cherish forever.
When we were dating, yes, and still when we were dating, we discovered that we both liked Miss Pac-Man. Not regular Pac-Man, because regular Pac-Man is too slow and boring. Miss Pac-Man is better. It is the superior Pac-Man, and you cannot convince me otherwise. We went to a couple of drive-in theaters that had some arcade games in there, including Miss Pac-Man, and we would, before the movie started, or go and play against each other. And ended up doing the same thing at a bowling alley after we were married and had moved. That had also a Miss Pac-Man machine. And this one particular day, we go on a date to the bowling alley and we play our Pac-Man, and he gets the high score, which is pretty cool. And I was like, yay, good job, go you, now it's my turn. And I immediately break his high score. That would be much more impressive if they didn't delete the high scores every night. I still like to tease him, and whenever that picture pops up on Facebook that shows that has him with the high score, the next day mine pops up in the memories, and it's like, see? Whenever we get the chance, we play Miss Pac-Man, assuming that there are quarters to be found.
Hey, thanks for watching. In the comments, tell me a story of a time that you played games with somebody else. If you liked this video, clicking the like button would be fantastic. And if you want to see more of the type of stuff I'm making, then subscribing to this channel would be wonderful. Alright, thank you very much. Bye!